Well, hello and happy Tuesday, everybody. Here we are again, and For the Love of Dragons, going live as we do every Tuesday. And boy, this week I put out something yesterday, just last night actually, and the response has been incredible. So I want to dive into that because at least once, if not twice or more a year, I do a single question of, if you could ask a dragon one question, what would it be? And the only rule is that it can't be only beneficial to you as an answer, like what is your dragon name, or who is my dragon guide. That's what readings are for. This is a thing to benefit everybody from the answers that come. And so the response was overwhelming so far, and because they each take some time to sit with, tune into the dragon that wants to respond. Typically it is my higher self, Tana, that is pulling through the information. And so I've started answering some of those, and hopefully everyone will be patient with waiting for the answers to come through. But I wanted to go ahead today and do some on the live, because I thought it would be, a great way, because some of them involve a great deal of response, and there might be essays typed into the post responses if we don't do some of them live. So I'm going to do a couple of them live here. And I might even save some for next week, because I printed, these are just the ones so far, 2 pages front and back, and I know there'll be more as people see the posts that haven't been on since last night. And I love that, because that is showing that people are paying attention, that there's still questions out there, there's still things you guys want to know. So don't wait. If you have a question, don't wait for when I do this post each time, right? You can send me questions anytime you want. And they're usually a great topic for one of these lives that everybody can benefit from. Because a lot of times I know where I'm on my path, I know where my dragon hearts are, I know what subjects I've talked about in the past. But if you're new to the group and you haven't found some of the old live videos or the YouTube channel, and you haven't seen something, you might have a question, and I might simply direct you to a specific live, but it might be indicating to me, oh, it's time again to tackle some of those issues, because there's a consistent gathering of new dragons into the lair. If you've noticed, we're up around 1,700 now, which is super exciting, and it just keeps growing organically because the energy is starting to magnetize toward itself. It started doing that, from the beginning, and that's how the dragons work. It's all about energy. It's all about you aligning into your truth, who you be. And if you've come to this, you probably have a connection either with the dragons, or that you are a dragon and have to wake up to that fact. So let's thank you, Anne, and noticing the painting behind me. This is the rainbow dragon, and if you have been paying attention, I'm in the middle of creation of an oracle deck. I've just gotten all the graphic design work done for the cards themselves. So now starting to work on the book format. I've gotten the book written. I just need to get it all formatted, and then we're going to be off to the printers. So we're looking like this spring is a definite go for the oracle deck. I will be doing a pre-order at some point, so watch for that. But this is one of the canvases. This is the Rainbow Dragon, and I'll just give you a little show here of this wall. This is 6 of the other canvases. And they are 11 by 14 and 16 by 20 canvases available of any of the card designs. So once you get the oracle deck and you're working with one and it's speaking to you a lot, you can actually get it to have on your wall, which I think is really exciting. And these bring so much energy to this space. I do rotate them out at different times. I had the black and the white dragons out last week. Because they hold a specific energy. So Anne, I'm glad you noticed it. They are incredible. The artist I found to do them is incredible. Everything that I gave him and the little tweaks that he would come back with a sketch, and I'd say it needs to be more like this. He nailed it, and it's to nail a rainbow dragon that's a very etheric being. It was really a match made in heaven. I felt like I waited over 2 years to find the right artist, because this has been a project that's been on my heart for quite some time and in production. And then I was waiting to write the text. Couldn't figure out why it didn't come together all last fall. Was going to work on it all summer and then all fall, and it just never happened. And I finally was shown clarity in January of why the whole previous year was about destruction. 2020, as you know, was chaos. It was destruction. It was breaking things apart. It was really bringing people into like, all right, time to wake up, time to become aware. And so as of January 1st and 2nd, we moved into a whole different shift of energy. That for the next 2+ years, we have a reconstruction phase. We have a revisioning phase. And that energy was what the dragons were waiting for me to align to actually bring through what they wanted, because I might have been working with the Earth Dragon for years, but there's a new octave of energy and framework that wanted to be shared with that Earth Dragon card. So that was really exciting to understand that and to actually sit down, and every time I did, it just came through so directly of what the dragons wanted to portray energetically with each of those. So I'm glad you noticed it, Anne. Hello, Kat. So let's dive into some of these questions. And if you will go into the post, you'll see some I have started to answer, and I will keep going. They will all get answered, I promise. Sometimes they take a lot longer than others, and I don't always have that much time in a day because I have a full schedule of clients and classes and regular living and lives, and trying to balance it all and getting the Oracle decks out and other projects and products. I just got a whole new shipment as well of the dragon pendants like this one. They are Andaran stones from Shasta, beautifully wrapped in a specific dragon pendant. And they are powerful. I tell you what, we're in this, like the first time I held it in my hand, I didn't know it was the one for me. I was expecting another one to be. And I put it in my hand, it just started vibrating. I was like, oh my goodness, I think I was supposed to keep this one. And then I had to but allow the owner of the other one to magnetize towards it and find that match. So they all went very quickly, and I just got another shipment in, so I'm excited. I will be putting those up as I can get photos taken and get them on the site. That is dragonwithin.com/lair, LAIR. So let's go into some questions. I'm going to allow my dragon self to be really, really present. Sometimes when I do this, you'll see my eyes shift. My reading space is more out here now, but I do allow myself internally to be dropping deeper. Funny, my voice is starting to go through a shift into that as well. So Tanal wants to speak directly in response to some of these questions. So I'm going to start with Jen Vera's question. She was the first responder last night, like almost immediately after I posted it. So her question was, what makes a dragon master of all elements? And I'm just going to allow, as I do when I do many readings on the lives or any of my readings. So what makes a dragon a master of all elements? So a dragon essentially is not necessarily a master of elements, as we say here in the Earth framework. If you look at the elements, they only exist in the way we know them in this Earth plane. So the elements are basically energetic forms. So the truth is that a dragon is a master of energy. A dragon can master all levels of energy, partly because of one of who they be, their structure. They're one of the earliest creations. They are one of the oldest creations because of that. So they've had a lot of experience. So knowing the expanse of the universe, the energetic tools, octaves, dimensions, layerings, physical principles that operate within those systems, you cannot become a master of those things unless you spend a great deal of time and experience, and using that word time for the benefit of us, because that's a parameter we operate within. Their realm is outside of what we know as time, although it does have a flow to it in a different dimensional parameter that we don't actually have words for. So it does flow in a sequence that something causes something else, and you can keep exploring and gaining wisdom. So the truth of the answer to that question is they master all elements mainly because they are masters of energetics. They are masters of principles of energetic flow in the universe, and all of the physical principles that operate in the movement of that energy. So to come into a more solidified state with the elements, although wind, air, and water are elements in motion, technically fire is also in motion as well, but the base elements of fire are static. So the elements are a way to put static into motion and blend them together. And this is what a dragon really is a master of, and this is why they step in on larger projects like this universe when they were asked, and I had memory, so it's interesting because I can feel Tana's presence, and she's asking me to speak just as me through that connection of memory bank. So I finally had a memory further back than this earth plane before stepping into the creation of this universe with the forces of light, with the forces of Mother, Father, God, and being the ones that the dragon commanders came together in that massive round table structure that is true community and said yes. And in that moment when they said yes, I was able to see the space, see all the commanders, and have that memory of, oh yes, we were invited to because we are those masters of energy, masters of energetics. And if you know Metatron in particular, he for me is the archangel that he's like the guru of the physics realm. He's a dragon in that sense. There are many dragons, but he's one of the most ancient. And as the crystal dragon representative in this realm, that is a go-to function of working with the physical universal principles, meaning not just physical physics of the movement of energy, the movement of things in order to create and form universes. So the dragons being the ones to actually come in and hold the energetics. When they drop down lower and lower, they bring that information, they bring that mastery into manipulating and using the elements with and for you here in this third dimensional layer. So Jen, I hope that answers your question. I feel like it was definitely a point of perspective. And what's interesting about all of these questions, that even already in answering some of them in the posts, it's the dragons are trying to bring your awareness, your perspective up a notch, to bring it up to more closer to their playing field, to something more akin to the fifth dimensional layer, where your conscience and your knowings as human, really stuck in parameters of physical reality, can fall away in order for you to see from up here and understand the question from up here. Because when we get stuck in 3D parameters of trying to understand something, which I noticed in some of the questions, I know that their answers are going to bring you consistently raising the bar. Raise it up to here so that you can see a different level of truth within that. So I love that they brought that immediately about the elements up into what is underlying the elements. Everything is energy. Everything in the universe is actually just energy. And as we are expanding into a fifth dimensional reality that is definitely more energetic playing field and less physical density, that's where they're trying to broaden our horizon, broaden our perspective into, all right, always look at it from up here. Bring yourself into the energetic realm instead of the physical plane, and you'll get more clarity on what you are seeking. So I love that they're bringing that through as well. That's definitely coming from, there's a circle of dragons around me right now that they're all very eager to interact with humanity. They are, and some of the questions were about that, if, you know, can they work in community? Do they like to be solo or loners? And they're actually very communal, and they come in droves when humanity's asking questions because they want so much to be of service. And so they're sort of jostling around me for position and a voice, and so I'm just going to let them keep speaking. I'll do a couple more questions. Augustine down in, I believe he's in Uruguay. Very cool that I have, I love that there's dragons that are waking up all over the world, and that this is a very international group. It's great to see in the connections, and when we do book clubs and even the Dragon Heart programs that we have, every call is a worldwide global energetic web coming together, which then transports that energy and what they are holding into the spaces around them. It's meant to keep expanding us. So down in Uruguay, and for those that don't know, we do have the book in Spanish. So if you haven't seen that and you have friends around the world in Spanish that you've been wanting to share that with but didn't think they could follow the English, it is available in Spanish and French. So his question, he knows I've talked about this briefly before, about the connection between the dragons and the Elohim. So basically the angelic realms. He's choosing the Elohim specifically. But the seraphim are also very connected to the dragons. They've actually been known, and you can do internet searches on that, about the seraphim and their actual original origin connected. I feel like there's, in the higher octaves or layerings dimensionally within the angelic realms, that many of those beings that are associated with angelic host beings or angelic realms are actually stemming from the dragon, and there's a couple pieces to understand about that. So the bridging between realms happens when any realm has advanced to a certain octave of love, because the energetic octaves and the layerings all have to do with the amount of love or light information that you can carry. And so the highest ones up around the 22nd dimension, there are some beyond that now, as love keeps evolving, that's where they can actually bridge and interconnect. So many of the dragons that operate within that level came through in the creation of this universe for our angelic realms, and started working with that and training or allowing those souls that were coming from the crossing over experience of a human framework, crossing over into the spirit realms, into what might be the heavens or the hells. And as they were working with them, helping them to gain those perspectives in love, to gain those octaves and advancements in their own being towards more and more light, which is more and more love. And so the seraphim, definitely the Elohim, and the Elohim are those operators isn't a nice word for that angelic realm, but they are the ones that hold that echelon within the 22nd dimension. And so they're very directly connected. Many are dragon that have come through to become a form that can sustain an angelic presence realm, because that was something that was desired in the earth experience, that the afterlife, or the in-between stages of evolution in a plane that was in a spirit body, leave the physical body behind, you can go and take another body after you resolve what you want to do, set the plan, that the Elohim were those that would take that more angelic presence, but they are those dragon hearts. They are the ones that were dragon initially. Does that mean that all Elohim are dragon? Let me just feel into that, because I don't know if I've ever asked that specific question before. So I'm getting a very direct no, that the Elohim, essentially based on that explanation, to understand that those bridgings can come from different realms of beings that are at that 22nd dimension. So if beings are wanting to be of service there, they would actually be able to come in and use the Elohim format. And so what do we mean by format? It's a geometric. As I said, everything's energy, so there's a geometric patterning for every species of being. So whether you want to be a starseed, whether you want to be a dragon, whether you become a Pegasus, whether you become rainbow dragon over the rainbow realms, whether you become a human, whether you are a Pleiadian, there are so many beings that we're not even aware of, and that they're outside in other places and universes and planets and galaxies and realms. So outside of that, when there is a signature to a operational format, let's call it like an operating system, that holds a specific frequency, like the angelic realms, that they can come in and it's not quite shape-shifting, it's not quite the same. They're coming in and taking that signature with an aspect of their self. Their higher soul is still maintaining that presence, but they will operate within that Elohim realm, so they can come from any level that is at that octave. It's sort of like a doorway, or a rite of passage isn't even the right word. It's like, because they operate in that sector, they can then actually operationally become anything that's available within that dimensional framework, in whatever universal level. And they usually would choose to do it in service. So the Elohim are beings in service, absolutely. But they can come through from that realm. Now, there are also beings that can graduate through those levels of the heavens in this earth plane to those levels of angelic realm that they may choose. So if there's someone whose first and foremost incarnation as a soul is human form here, that they may choose to stay outside of physical body for a certain level of experience and knowing and understanding and growth, They may come back in and do some more lessons in body, or they can keep moving up those echelons. It's all about where they want to do their quote schooling or advancements. So it is possible to move up into Elohim. I hate the words that we have here. They don't really operationally fit. But status, that octave or that signature would become available to you when you actually reach that certain level of expansion vibrationally. Let's use vibration, that's better than a status. It's a vibrational piece that's an energetic that you can match to and would become that. That's something that maybe is a soul striving, or a wow, I see that out in front of me, I want to work towards that. So that bonding with the Elohim and the dragons, back to his question, is it fits in with that there's a level of service dynamic that is that core bond that the Elohim do work with dragons, that there are dragons that don't necessarily want to come in and be Elohim, they want to do something else. It doesn't mean they don't have a bond and work together, because any being operating within that vibrational spectrum will interact with each other. There's always massive service projects. And when you start looking at the mirroring, that if you can even visualize that there are service projects on that massive scale from a very high vibrational dimension of love that is all about true service, true element of how can we help evolution here? How can we step in and hold the framework to allow these beings to have their own evolutionary experience and be their guides, be their teachers, be their ones that keep putting pieces in front of them to move them forward, to be an inspiration or a guidance forward. So I would say that is another level of looking at the bond between the Elohim and the dragons, because any of those that are part of those round tables, they work very closely together. And we can look at that in every level or octave of frameworks, coming down even to what we see here, where in our dualistic linear plane, we have two sides, we have polarities. This has been the whole experiment. Can polarities be created and beings drop into polarities and actually bring it back together into a state of merge to be able to evolve the human species who is starting within that, to get them to a place where their planetary consciousness can raise to that space. And then all the other beings that are in service, they can go and do something else. They don't have to stay in this playing field, but it's about helping that humanity evolution to another place, to another octave. And so we're now getting close to that. We've envisioned roundtables, but they've been very skewed. If you look at any current structure that oversees something, whether it's a school board, whether it's a city council, whether it's a Congress, whether it's a hospital board, we have boards, we have what are called roundtables, but they tend to be still very singular in their leadership. That there is division, that there is polarization, and there's rarely an agreement. So it's always, well, we have to come to a unanimous agreement, or we have to have a majority, because it's inherent within that system. So while we're still in 3D, this has been the model or the mirror of what those roundtables, what communal connection actually looks like. Drop down, octavely, down to where it's a reflection of what is possible, of what beings have brought in and said, I know that we can do this if we can come together. And yet, because we're still in a space of evolution here, that those polarizations are still there, and so it almost dynamically creates that there's division, that boards can't come together in full agreement, that very rarely is it a full unanimous, everyone's buying in and on the same page. So as we move towards that, as we raise the vibration planetarily, and this is what we're in right now, you're going to start seeing a very big shift towards true roundtables, where the single element of a CEO or a single leader that's in position above that, like even where I used to be an executive director of a chamber of commerce, I was the director, but there was a board who oversaw and made choices, but they still had a single leadership that took on with stuff, that took all of that and then managed it forward. That was less of a position above, as much as like some other hierarchies work, where there's a CEO and he has a board, he will still make the final choice if it's not to his liking. that's how this system has been, and we're going to move away from single leadership and true round table in those higher octaves. So this is where we have to start looking at perspective. Is the dragons are here to show us. There's a big question was, why are the dragons even here? Well, they were here in service to really be the ones to hold vibrationally, because they are those masters, because they hold all that knowledge and wisdom and the different frequency bands that are needed to access energetics here. So they have a massive desire in their hearts to hold that. And as they hold it, they are eager to see us succeed and see us raise up. So they are consistently present and around to help us get to those higher perspectives, to help us get to that place where we can bring a true round table and drop out of the need for single leadership dynamic, that it becomes a different playing field. So it's always in that desire to raise the perspective, get it up here, get it out of duality, get it out of judgment, separation. That it's, this is one of the questions that I answered actually writing, responding back, typing, that we have to get away from it's evil and good. It's, yes, there's a battle going on because it's still in polarity, but we are meant to embrace and bring it up here. It's not about leaving anyone behind. It's not about separation. It's about, there is always choice. There's choice point to come into that merge. And if you choose not to, you can stay in a reality that is still in a dualistic manner. But for those that are evolving, it is really bringing it up to a different playing field. And that's where it's not about a pointing finger or a judgment or a separation or that's evil or that's dark. It's about, I have to hold as much light as I can, which is why I have the whole program to wake people up to their full dragon self and be able to merge with that, because that's when you can, when you're actually merged with yourself, you can carry a massive amount of light, that you can go forward and be that light that is so brilliant that as you embrace and hold someone or something that you perceive as evil, you will reflect so much light back to them that they will finally be able to see the light within and realize that they've made very unloving choices and move into something different. If they choose not to move into that paradigm, you can still embrace them and let their soul stay in the lower octave and move into something different. And it's about, it is soul choice, it is free will. But if we don't hold embrace for every single being, and we can look at individual beings. This was a piece that came through, and this wasn't a direct question, but this is relevant now because of the topic. There was a beautiful exercise that came through with one of my long-term clients in Dragon Hearts a couple months ago. And it was about being able to look at any singular being on the planet that you might look at them and go, that is the epitome of evil. And we know some big names out there, and I could name a few, but I'm just going to hold it in my conscience. Maybe you'll pick it up telepathically. All you have to do is visualize who you believe is the most evil being on the planet. Maybe it's someone in your neighborhood. Maybe you're like, okay, I'm just going to start with small, like this person in my family, in my neighborhood. Who's the hardest for me to actually embrace? And if you can hold that being and embrace them, and maybe you need to call in your dragons or your angels or both to help you get there, and sit with that and allow the dragons to open your heart, because it might be very hard for you. I know there's times when it's hard for me. And allow yourself to hold that being, and you can imagine your own massive wings wrapping around them, and imagine so much love beaming out of your heart. And the dragon's heart is massive, massive amounts of love. And if you can feel that coming from me right now, I'm sending it out to everyone who's listening to this, whether it's live or on the replay. Just receive that. Just feel that come in. And what that is that embrace is meant to hold that being there until you actually see and perceive the very traumatized child that's within them. Because I guarantee you, every person that's operating within that had pieces within their childhood that they have locked away, that they lived through deep levels of either pain or distortion or their own abuses. Doesn't matter what it is. There's something there that created the cornerstone foundation for them to keep moving in that trajectory of hiding from their light, of not being willing or able to see it. And if you allow yourself to see it for them and reflect it back to them, that's going to help make the shift. And even if it doesn't shift them, it's shifting you. Everything comes down to shifting you and your perspective. And when you can get there and hold them in your dragon heart and your dragon embrace, even if you don't feel like your dragon heart is activated, you're not there yet, you're not even sure you have a dragon with you or that you are a dragon, maybe you have angels around you. And you can get to where they can help you just soften into, you know what? I see the pain within them, which is pain within me. And as soon as I resolve and feel that, I can feel myself soften and look at them as, all right, they're on a journey. Do I have to embrace what they're doing? No. I can start to make changes and hopefully reverse some of the damage they've done. But it all starts with an energetic, and it starts with that energetic within me. It's a pulse of light within me that will shift my perspective. And as I bring me up, our responsibility really is first and foremost to your own journey. When you can get yourself there, everyone around you can also be taken there. That's the most important piece of service you can get to, and I believe that was one of the questions. So allowing that to be why and how the dragons are with you. So if that's a question of why are the dragons even working with us, that's why. They hold the capacity, much like the angelic guides that you are given, to hold that around you, and in a different way, because the angelic guides that are assigned with you, and I'm going to go with this because it was in one of the questions as well. You are given an angelic guide and guardian from birth, from the moment of birth. That's assigned to you from God, the whole angelic realms. There's a set of beings with you. Those are from the angelic realms that are associated with this earth plane. When the time is right, there is a dragon guide assigned or associated. Are they directly in communication and always present? No, they're not. They are not present until they feel the impulse from you that runs through a higher octave of wanting to advance, wanting to move into something beyond the earth plane. That's when their impetus is, they're awake, they're ready, or they're wanting to awaken, and they will start showing up around you. So yes, there is one assigned, and that's a new awareness for me. It's not a question I'd ever asked before. I'd always seen the dragons come in, and someone had posted in part of their question of knowing that we all have a dragon guide assigned to us. And it does make sense because the dragons are the ones holding this realm. But with that dragon guide assigned, it does not mean that they are actively present with you until you are ready for them. And when you are ready for them, they will actually show up, and then they will be very actively involved to bring you to a higher octave of understanding. Because the angelic realms can bring you in as far as the human framework is concerned. But when you're wanting to move beyond the level of understanding and remembrance of what is beyond the 3D plane, it's truly the dragon guide that's going to be the one to push you forward. That's got the impetus and the signature codes within them to be able to transfer that information. So it's coming from a higher octave than maybe even where the angelic realm guides that are assigned to you, because the angelic guides are typically in a vibration that is just slightly above yours. That because of where they're at, they are in the angelic realms. It's part of their service and advancement as well. Their evolution is to serve as guides in a dimension just beyond this one. But the dragons are coming in from much higher octaves, so they can take your knowledge, insight, awareness, and energetic capacity into a whole new level, like different playing field. So that's where I see the difference between the angelic presence guides that are very human looking and a dragon guide that would be in. So this has been really fun. I know that I could talk for hours, but I have to get ready for my Dragonheart class. And so I will keep tackling these questions over the weeks, and I will keep answering some daily on the feed. So if you have a question, you didn't even see the post yet, go add yours in, because this is how we get these amazing dialogues going, and I thank you guys for being here. You can also message questions directly to me or email them, and I do those if you're wanting something personal, because one of the parameters is you can't ask a question that is only for your benefit. If you're wanting to ask one of those, what is my dragon name? Who are my guides? What's my next step? That's what the readings are for. And there's 20-minute dragon readings. There's full 75-minute session readings. Annabelle, I'm so glad you love this live. I did too. I love diving into these kind of questions. So I'm excited that there was such a massive response, so that there's like tons and tons of things here that we can talk about every week and go into these amazing discussions, because this discussion started with a question or two, but it really took its own life, didn't it? And that's what happens when I get in a reading space and Tana is here and present, and it just starts flowing with more information, which is to benefit you guys. So feel free to share this out, whether people know about dragons or not. There's pieces in there that I know are for everybody, especially about the angelic realms. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. So have a fabulous, fabulous week. I will see you on next live. And if you are wanting to find out more about the sessions, do a discovery call. Where do I need to go with my path? I'm not sure what the next step is. Those are all through the booking calendar on dragonwithin.com or invokehealing.com homepage. There's a book now that takes you right to the calendar. And don't flip out if you don't see anything. I am often booked 3 weeks out, and it only goes 3 weeks out, so you have to keep watching for the following week. Anyway, I love being with you guys. Appreciate my dragon family being here, and I will see you next week. Bye, everybody.